Hello Daily Drafters and welcome to the Bloomburrow pre-release guide here on the channel designed to get you ready for your pre-release events this weekend. This video will be full of useful information for beginners to seasoned veterans, whether this will be your first ever pre-release or if you're looking for Bloomburrow specific information such as a rundown on returning mechanics, limited archetypes, and more to make sure you're on top of your game at your LGS. So whether you're new here or you've been here a while, stay tuned for the ultimate guide in helping you crush your Bloomburrow pre-release. Now, some of you might be asking yourself, what exactly is a pre-release? Well, each year there are roughly 4 main set releases of Magic the Gathering products, and most local game stores run what's called a pre-release for each of these main set releases. Essentially, you battle it out against your friends and strangers using several booster packs of the brand new cards for the upcoming set that has yet to be released, hence the name pre-release. If this sounds interesting to you, let's take a step-by-step look at exactly how these events are run. Step 1. Locate your local game store. In order to participate in a pre-release event, you will need to locate one. If you do not already have a local game store that you frequent, I've included a link in the description to a website that will help you find a game store running a pre-release event near you. Now that you've found where you'll be participating, it's time to get registered. Usually stores will run events all weekend, maybe one on Friday, 2 on Saturday, and 1 on Sunday. Check with your LGS to see when the events are happening and which ones you would like to attend. Be sure to note that sometimes these events fill up fast, so you may need to pre-register to ensure you have a spot. It just depends on your store. Other times, you can just walk in and register on the spot. Be sure to find out what's best for your situation. Now that you're registered, it's time for the fun part. When it's time to start the event, you will get handed a pre-release kit like the ones on your screen now. For this set, there is only one pre-release kit that you can receive. In other sets, sometimes you have a choice, but for Bloomburrow, we've got just the one. Now that you've got your kit, when the event begins, you'll be instructed to open your kit and begin your deck build. It varies from store to store, but usually you will have about 50 minutes or so to build your deck and get ready for your matches. Let's take a look at what you'll find when you open your kit. Inside you will find one traditional foil rare or mythic rare from Bloomburrow with a year stamp, and here's an example of what that card might look like using a rare from the last set, Modern Horizons 3, 6 Bloomburrow play boosters, 1 20-sided spin down die, and 1 MTG Arena code card. As many of you may be aware, draft boosters are now things of the past and were replaced with play boosters in the last few sets. This certainly threw a wrench in things when it came to drafting these last few sets, so I wanted to break down what Bloomburrow will look like. Shockingly, this might actually be the simplest explanation we've had in years when it comes to the details of the set, but we really only have one singular 261 card set on our hands, plus a small sheet of special guest cards that appear incredibly rarely, so it shouldn't be too difficult to explain. Every Bloomburrow play booster will contain a variation on the following: 7 commons, and 1.5% of the time one of these 7 commons will be replaced by a special guest, of which there are these 10 for the set visible on your screen now, 3 uncommons, 1 non-foil wild card of any rarity from the main set, and although we weren't given specific percentages this time around, in previous sets this slot had about an 8% chance to be a rare or mythic rare, 1 rare or mythic rare, 1 foil card of any rarity, and the final slot will be one of 20 seasonal full art basic lands. Each of the 5 basic land types will feature 4 different arts representing each of the 4 seasons: spring, summer, autumn, and winter. And the chance that your land will feature a particular season will also vary, as you will have a 40% chance to open a spring land, 30% chance for summer, 20% chance for autumn, and just a 10% chance to open a winter land. And there's also a 20% chance that whatever land you do open will be a foil. Alright, we now have everything we need to begin our deck build. If you'd like to see an example of a Bloomburrow sealed deck build, stick around until the final segment of this video, timestamp below, where I will build an entire sealed deck on screen for you to follow along with. After you've built your deck, you will then be assigned an opponent by the event coordinator and you will play out your first match. Different stores will give you different amounts of matches for the event, but usually it's a minimum of 3. Sometimes you might get lucky and be able to play 4 or more, it just depends. After you've finished your matches, you may qualify for some prizes, so be sure to check with the event coordinator to cash in on your winnings. So what I'm going to go ahead and do now is go over some of the new and returning mechanics for the set, go over the themes associated with the draftable archetypes, and just give you a general rundown of what's going on in Bloomburrow before I do my deck build so we both have a better idea of what to look out for. Our first new mechanic for the set is Offspring. Offspring is an optional additional cost that you can choose to pay as you cast a card. If you do pay, when the creature enters, you create a token that's a copy of it, except the token is a 1/1. Pretty simple actually. A fun little bonus is that each card with Offspring produces a token with unique art depicting a younger version of the card. How cute. Gift is another keyword that represents an additional cost. As you cast a permanent spell with Gift, you can promise the gift to your opponent if you would like. Just like Offspring, this is an optional additional cost that you may or may not want to pay. In the case of permanent spells with Gift, your permanent will enter the battlefield and then a trigger will go on the stack giving your opponent their gift if you chose to do so as you cast it. In the case of an instant or sorcery spell with Gift resolving, your opponent will receive their gift prior to your spell resolving. Forage is a new keyword action that shows up as a cost you may pay in various circumstances. To forage, either exile 3 cards from your graveyard or sacrifice a food. Simple as that. As long as you can remember how to forage, you should be good to go if you're ever instructed to do so. Valiant is a new ability word that highlights triggered abilities that trigger whenever a creature becomes the target of a spell or ability you control for the first time each turn. Valiant shows up on cards in such a way that makes it very clear what's going on, and honestly the term Valiant doesn't seem to mean much, as in the case of Seedglaive Mentor, all of the instructions related to the trigger resolving are also simply printed on the card. Expend is a new rules term that tracks how much mana you've spent to cast spells over the course of a turn. To expend 4, for example, you must simply spend your 4th total mana to cast spells during any given turn. There are a few nuances to this mechanic as well, but if you simply think of it as having a permanent on the battlefield that sees you spend your 4th total mana on spells this turn, you have successfully expended 4. The final new mechanic associated with Bloomburrow is a variation on modal spells, but this time in the form of paw prints. As you cast one of these modal spells, you can choose up to 5 paw prints worth of modes. Paw prints are a new symbol used exclusively for these cards. They aren't a resource like mana or energy. As long as you can figure out a way to spend 5 paw prints in any combination, you're on a one-way trip to Value Town. That does it for the new mechanics, so let's check out the draftable archetypes that Bloomburrow will feature, each of which are visible on your screen now. You'll notice that all 10 of these archetypes revolve around a particular creature type. A lot of the time, some color pairs will get to draft around a particular mechanic or unique playstyles, but this time around, it's all typal. Now, it does seem like these typal themes are more of a sprinkling throughout the set rather than a full-blown hit-you-in-the-face kind of thing. Flashing across your screen now is every archetype and their accompanying animal theme, as well as several cards that reference these typal themes, one at common, one at uncommon, and one at rare, as well as each color pair's signpost uncommon card which references a different theme that I'll talk about in a moment. In most cases, these are the only typal cards and payoffs that exist, although there may be 1 or 2 more in some color pairs that I left off here. You'll also notice that there is a secondary theme associated with each of the 10 color pairs, some associated with the new mechanics of the set, and some are more classic limited archetypes like spells and go wide aggro. With this being said, there will be a few cards in each color and color pair that specifically reference each of that color pair's creature types, and there will also be a few that reference its theme, but there will be a split in design space for this set. In most sets, each color pair gets just one theme, and almost all of the cards that fit well in that theme are pretty apparent upon first read. But this set will split its themes down the middle. Maybe you'll end up more of a creature type build, or maybe you'll end up building around a particular color's secondary theme a bit more. Or maybe even you'll end up mixing and matching a little bit. It'll be interesting to see what the quote-unquote optimal build for each color pair will be, and if we might even end up in a situation where there's actually 20 viable decks to draft, as one person drafts red-green raccoons, and the next person drafts red-green expend. I'm hoping this upcoming sealed deck build will give us a pretty good idea of exactly what we should be looking out for in both sealed and in draft. There do also seem to be a few cards in each of the 5 colors that reference 4 different creature types in their text in one way or another, 1 uncommon land, and 1 rare card. Each of the creature types referenced are a color contained within 4 of the 10 color pairs. These cards are likely to be important pivot cards that are coveted by several drafters, as they will pay you off for being a single color and not necessarily a particular color pair just yet. If you start your draft with a few of these cards, you can keep yourself open to up to 4 archetypes, as they will count as payoffs for all 4 of the archetypes containing their color and creature type. Keep an eye out for these payoffs, they'll certainly be important in the format. Now, the hardest part about the whole event is building your deck, but good news, I will now go through an entire Bloomburrow sealed deck build to give you an idea of what you want to be looking out for in your pool of cards and how to maximize your chance of having a competitive deck for the event. But before we do, if you do enjoy this content or any other content on the channel and would like to give back, I do have a Patreon with a link in both the description and on your screen now. For those of you that don't know, Patreon is a great way to give back to creators that provide you with content that you enjoy, and mine is no different, except for the fact that my Patreon is among the most affordable Patreons in the entire Magic community. I only have 2 tiers available for either $1 per month or $3 per month. Like, that's it. Less than a daily cup of coffee for a whole month. There's also absolutely no expectation of commitment either, as it is a come and go as you please system. You can support for 1 month and then discontinue and then rejoin later. It's completely up to you. Support on Patreon helps keep the lights on here at Daily Draft, and if you enjoy the content I make and would like to pay it forward, feel free to check it out and throw a couple bucks my way. Thanks so much for your consideration. Alright, here we are in our sealed deck build, and before we get started, I always get the question, so I'll go ahead and answer it right out of the gate here. The place where I am building this sealed deck, you can see in the white space to the left of me here, or to my right, or whatever it is. It is sealeddeck.tech. That is the website you can go to build this sealed deck interface. I also generated this pool on draftsim.com. You can see that link in the white space as well. That's where I generated the pool, exported into sealeddeck.tech. This is the place I like to do sealed deck build practice. I know a lot of you also do that as well, and you usually ask me questions about where this is. So you can use this to your own benefit over the course of the next week to get some practice in on this. So without further ado, if I was at my pre-release this weekend, what do I start with? The most important thing to always do is sort by rarity. In sealed, especially in the era of play boosters, you want to see how many rares you have and what the good ones are. So we have 2 mythics here and 8 rares for a total of 10 rares or mythics. Not too bad. So we've got Dream, Do, and Trancer. And I'll also say that I'm not going to go ahead and read through every single one of these cards. We've got tons of cards here. I'm just going to pull out the things that are important to me that I would think about, and then quickly get into a deck build and show you probably where I would land. But I'll go through the rares. They're important. Dream, Do, and Trancer, good, probably not great. We do have Alania and Ral in blue-red. Both care about casting instants and sorceries. Could be pretty interesting. Season of Weaving is a mythic sorcery. 6 mana. You can kind of like bounce all non-land, non-token permanents to each owner's hands and draw some cards and make copies of things. Not too bad there. Valley Floodcaller, where to go? There it is. Also cares about non-creature spells, so we got a lot of blue-red going on here. Vren the Relentless is a rat build-around, maybe. Thornvault Forager is our only green rare, looks to be a bit of a squirrel build-around. Dark Star Augur is the new Dark Confidant, 3 mana, 2/3 flyer that has the Dark Confidant text where you can draw cards and lose life, basically. Caretaker's Talent could be really interesting in a draft scenario. I don't know if sealed is going to really lend itself to this, because it seems pretty good if you're building around it in draft. And Lunar Convocation, 2 mana. They lose a life if you gained life, and then you can create a bat and then pay some life to draw cards. That seems pretty good in a bat build around as well. But my eyes are immediately drawn to these blue and red cards here. So that's where I start, and I'm instantly drawn to blue-red. So the next thing I would do is kind of take a look at the colors that I've got and see if my rares are supported by the colors that I have. The first thing I notice is we've got the most blue and red cards. It doesn't necessarily mean they're good, but we do have a lot of them. So what can we look for here? I see take out the trash. This is the 2-mana removal of the format. 2-mana deal 3. If you control a raccoon, you can rummage as well, which we may or may not control a lot of raccoons in blue-red if we end up there. What do we got? Agate Assault. 3-mana deal 4 at sorcery speed. Not too bad. These are all instants and sorceries as well. What do we have over here in blue? Pearl of Wisdom is kind of like a divination, but if you have an otter, which blue-red is the deck that cares most about otters, you could draw 2 cards for 2 mana. It's not too bad. We've got the Season of Weaving. We already pointed that out, though. Calamitous Tide is a card I usually don't like too much. Well, I say I usually don't value cards like this too much, but they end up overperforming, so it's not too bad either. Got the Floodcatcher here. Frog Build Around. Dazzling Denial, I mean, these are usually fine. We call these Quench variants. I think the first card that kind of had this effect, 2-mana count or something, unless they pay 2, was called Quench back in Strixhaven, maybe? So these aren't too bad. Splash Portal kind of saves your own creature, and if it is one of the blue creature types, you get to draw a card. Let's see what else we got over here in red. Coruscation Mage. Okay, 2-mana 2/2, and then whenever you cast an on-creature spell, deals 1 damage to them. That's not too bad. It also has Offspring. You can copy that. You get another copy of it. So this is where I'm looking so far. I think we've got some pretty good support for blue-red here. I'll go ahead and put these back in there and take a look at the other colors. What other rares? We had blue-green, we had a Lunar Convocation, and a... Where was the black rare that we had? Darkstar Augur. Maybe we could build something in black here. Our black is not looking very good, though. 6-mana 5/3, mill 3. It gets -X, where that's the greatest mana value. That's not... It's a little expensive for what it is. Ruthless Negotiation. They exile a card from their hand. If it was cast from your graveyard, you draw a card. It's got Flashback. Savor. Decent little removal spell. Nocturnal Hunger. Also a decent little removal spell. 3 mana. Kill something. Lose 2. So we've got some decent black cards. My worry is we might not have enough black cards here. If we're thinking black-white, what do we have over here? Yeah, that's not a horrible card. Thistledown Players. Do we have any of the kind of life gain? So this is Sonar Strike, 2-mana, 4-mana. It deals 4 to attacking or blocking or tapped creature. You gain 3 life if you control a bat. Don't know how many bats we actually have. We do have Glide Dive Duo. Gosh, the card names in this set are kind of hard to say. 5-mana 3/3 flyer. When it ETBs, you gain 2, and they lose 2. Not too horrible. That works with things like this, and it is a bat. First Strike Lifelink. That is a way to gain some life over here as well. So we've got a possibility of a black-white deck. I worry a little bit about the number of playables in black-white. I don't think green is really going to work for us here. We do have the Thornvault Forager, but I'm not seeing a lot of other power or synergy necessarily in green here. 5-mana 5/4. When it enters, you put a counter on something, fight something, destroy target artifact or enchantment. That is quite good. I do like that card. Kind of like a 3-mana 4/3 trample. Okay, that could be interesting. This was like a rare, like 2 or 3 years ago. I forget the name of the card. I can picture the art of it. Still just don't think we have a ton of synergy necessarily to consider green. My thoughts right now are black-white or blue-red. So this is kind of my where I would start. You can kind of put together a couple decks. I'm not going to do this all on screen because it'll take just forever in the video. It'll be super long. But you kind of put together a black-white deck, see what you got, see if you make playable, see if you like the cards that you have to include to get up to 23. Put together a blue-red deck, same thing, see what you end up with. I mean, you can consider some other things like, you know, black-red with this. We do have 2 Cindering Cutthroats here, but I don't necessarily think this card is like a reason to get into black-red. You can put this in just a black or a red deck, as it is a hybrid mana cost here. But so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and make a cut here. I'm going to build the deck that I think is best with this pool, and we'll go over why I chose it. Okay, and here's where I ended up in blue-red. So we have 8 creatures in this deck, all of which are otters, interestingly enough. So, I mean, blue-red is the otter slash non-creature prowess kind of spells deck, and we have 8 creatures, and all of them are otters. Almost every single one of them cares about non-creatures here. So Stormcatch Mentor makes them cheaper and has prowess. This pings our opponent. This one gets counters. This one lets us impulse draw. This one gives everything flash down here. This one just kind of lets us impulse draw a card for the next turn. This one has prowess and surveils. And this is our Otter Rare, and 15 non-creature spells. I didn't count out the exact number of instants and sorceries, although I think Ral is the only non-instant sorcery. So 14 instants and sorceries for all of these things up here. Double Take Out the Trash, Double Dazzling Denial, put into the, or sorry, Splash Portal into the deck, as we do have 8 otters, so if we can protect one of our creatures and draw a card, that's pretty good. Ral is a nice mythic build around. We've got Agate Assault. I don't know how to say that word. Agate? Agate? I don't even know. Got the mythic Season of Weaving and Calamitous Tide here. Double Pearl of Wisdom. As every single creature we have is an otter, so it's basically 2 mana, draw 2 cards. This is where I ended up, weighted against black-white, and thought this one is the better one to go with, because we do actually have some synergy, which isn't always the case when you're building sealed decks in really any format. But we did end up with what I think would be a fun deck to play at a pre-release, and also I think a pretty powerful one. We lucked out a little bit with our rares, didn't get like the most powerful things in the set, but certainly some synergistic stuff here. So that is my process for building a sealed deck. Again, this is sealeddeck.tech and draftsim.com that helped me do this and can help you do this over the course of this next week as well. Hope this helped you out. Thanks for tuning in. I hope this video was helpful to you and helps you build up the courage needed to go participate in a pre-release event at your LGS this weekend. If you've never been to one before, I highly recommend it. It's really one of the absolute most fun ways to play Magic, and you'll meet tons of different players there. If you do end up going, return back to this video and leave a comment and let me know how it went for you. I'd love to hear feedback from each of you about your event. Thanks so much for sticking around until the end of the video, and I will see you here soon at Daily Draft.